following program may contain coarse language, suggestive dialogue, and discussion of violent imagery and sexual situations. It is intended for mature listeners who can tell the difference between facts and opinions.
The action is heating up on this episode of the Toonami Faithful podcast. I'm your host, Kuro, and with me I have...
Bob Skrillo, the founder of ToonamiFaithful.com.
And...
an editorial writer, Laser Kid.
And taking up the rear...
we got Streamin' Steven with social media stuff. I don't know what to say anything there, but you know. Imagine I said something really cool.
Steven. I love Streamin' Steven. I'm keeping that. That's the thing.
I'm in.
Unfortunately, Sketch is not here with us tonight, but I have to admit, for one of the few times this has happened, I was wrong and Sketch was right. Though I guess technically we were both right about a certain assassin in Lazarus. So I just want to give a shout out to him in case he listens, which he probably will. That yeah, you got it right, Sketch. Though, admittedly, I had a good case for them not being the same, Soryu and HQ. But for anybody who's listening, we're gonna get started right away with talking about Lazarus, yeah?
Heck yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So Axel is in the hospital, and Dr. Millie is treating him in the private clinic. Popcorn Wizard is treating Elena in her van, and we learn her real name is Lynn. She definitely looks like a Lynn to me. And Doug, meanwhile, is awakening in his own hospital bed, but he is locked up. So we're a little bit injured this episode to start off with. And he's being kept under watch, of course, by the INSCOM people. And he mentions that the last time he was hospitalized was a certain incident. Back with Abel, he speaks to his driver, who is another agent named Elizabeth, and also a fellow NSA colleague, about searching for the assassin named Soryu. Axel wakes up in his hospital room and tells Chris about this dream, about being saved by an angel, and then he asks if she's the angel, since she saved him. It's very sweet. Dr. Millie then jokes about him sleeping through the end of the world, at which point it reminds him of the witness he's meant to save. However, Chris tells him that the witness has been found dead, unfortunately. So Axel is the only one left. Abel in the meantime meets up with the president, the big president, who turns out to be ill herself from hypnopoisoning. Back at the Lazarus HQ, Fat Kitty is there with Leland, and Fat Kitty does not want pets from Leland. You gotta be confident when you're petting a cat, I'm saying, especially when that chunky. But he's holding down the fort when Elizabeth shows up with another prison break character to help out. I did not catch his name, and I couldn't find it. So if anyone knows what this new character's name is.
I didn't quite catch it, but I did catch that, hey, have we met before? No, not at all.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more of him in the brief time we have him. Meanwhile, Elena and Lynn are getting along quite well and geeking out over each other's hacks. And Elena briefly mentions herself being a bystander in an incident which almost got her killed, relating it to this being the closest she's ever been to her own mortality. Something to think about. Elena then asks Lynn why she's helping Skinner, and she shares that she suffers from analgesia, which we remember from earlier episodes is the disease that cuts it enables people to not feel pain. She comes from one of the sinking islands that we saw in the previous episodes, and as it all comes together, she tells that Skinner had showed up one day, bought the land, and saved the islanders who just assumed they were going to die in the sinking and into the sinking land. And Lynn states as a result, she will do anything for him and she doesn't think he's a bad guy. Hey, me neither. Axel then shares his experience with Chris about the last thing the assassin mentioned and refers to him speaking about something called a Hundun. Hundun is a primordial being in Chinese cosmogony, and it represents chaos, and it has no face. Chris asks Axel if he has any family she wants to contact, but he says he's got nobody, much like Chris. He's got no parents and no siblings, just the closest he had to friends was a childhood gang. However, they're all dead, and the necklace he wears around his neck with the wing on it is a reminder. But then he admits that he likes being with Lazarus, implying that this is the closest he's felt a connection to people since that time. Back with Abel, he asks the president to let the NSA raid INSCOM and requests she give an executive order to do so. Presumably his mission is to free Hirsch. At this stage, the president then takes her glasses off after stating it'll probably be her last act and reveals her pupils, which are galaxy colored, meaning she is pretty close to the end.
What the heck kind of drug does that?
Yeah, I don't know, but I bet they'd make for cool contact lenses because her eyes do look pretty awesome.
She's becoming one with the Force.
Yeah. Our new recruit, whose name I don't know, continues to search for Soryu the assassin, but only seems to find HQ. Elizabeth then has him refocus his energies on HQ. Hayes, back at INSCOM HQ, Hayes is admonishing our sneer-faced Schneider about things going completely wrong with the assassin and having detained Hirsch. He believes that Lazarus isn't there to find, and Schneider states that he thinks that Lazarus is not created to find Skinner, but to expose INSCOM. HQ then contacts Hayes, and he doesn't quite seem himself. And one notices that his leg is wounded, and he seems to express some confusion about who he is. Hayes seems concerned that they're going to be exposed and tells Schneider that he's the one who's going to be held accountable. And just at that moment, he gets a call from Abel. Lynn, in the meantime, shows Skinner's heartbeat monitor to Elena, and Elizabeth at HQ reaches out to Chris asking about the assassin and saying if she got a look at his face, which she did. And she asks her to come to help identify him. Before she leaves, Chris and Axel share an intimate moment, and OMG, they kiss. It's
right out of that preview, and it was just as good here.
Yeah, the preview that I never saw. Thank you, Sketch. And Axel's look at that moment is pretty classic. It's pretty memorable. He's very incredulous. It's adorable. Then we get a cut back to Schneider, who appears to have murdered Hayes, and when the troops come in, he accuses him of treason. Figures he's a slimy, sneer-faced bastard. Meanwhile, we see Abel closing in on the facility for the raid. Chris shows up at the Lazarus HQ and recognizes the other HQ as the assassin she saw. Oh, it's all coming together. Elizabeth then states that it looks like he's suffering from something called dissociative identity disorder, meaning that he is both characters, but he doesn't realize it. I'm breaking it down completely overly simplistic, but I'm not a psychologist, so I think we all know what dissociative identity disorder is.
That's as good as a way of looking at it as you're going to get without having someone who really knows their stuff.
Yeah, that's the bullet point, the only relevant one. They're the same person, but they don't necessarily realize they're the same person because they dissociate. There you go. Chris shares what Axel told her about Soryu's obsession with Hundun, and it prompts Elizabeth to mention something called the Hundun, not association, project, something like that. Hundun program. The Hundun program. Meanwhile, back with Doug, his bed is shot up, but it doesn't hit him because he's clever and put a decoy there of stuffed pillows. Classic. Lynn then uses her hacking to rescue him from the agents, and they show up in front of the hospital in a van with his electronic moving hospital bed that took him right to them, and they all get away safely. Ish. For now. Abel then confronts the INSCOM people, and they stand up against Sneer-Face Schneider, going head-to-head with him and demanding he releases Hirsch. Back with Leland and his crew, they collect with Elena and share information about Skinner being in Babylonia City in the homeless community. That sounds really familiar, actually. Lynn takes the two in her van through a set of barriers, meanwhile, and jumps a bridge in order to get them to something called a hypercube station, which seems to be some kind of super fast futuristic travel device. Actually, it looks pretty cool. But it's currently shut down because apparently the end of the world ruined everything for them opening it. That really sucks, I guess. The engineer is really upset about it and he's crying. Can appreciate that. Lynn then decides that she's leaving the group, and it's a big bummer, but she gives Elena a device to communicate with her, declaring her both her rival and her best friend. And then she drives off happily in her cool colored van. Doug and Elena then board the hypercube with plans to meet up everybody and coordinate in Babylonian City. In the meantime, we see a sleeping Axel get a mysterious text message saying, "See you where the angel watches." There's a lot of detail in this episode, and I wasn't sure I caught it all, but I did think there was a couple of interesting things that I wanted to talk about. For example, the fact that both Doug and Elena mention mysterious incidents. It's hard not to perhaps draw a parallel to maybe the airport incident that was referenced in the previous episode. Yeah.
Exactly.
What did you guys think?
I thought it was interesting that there's just all this going on, but it's really working really well.
Wait a minute, we missed something that's very important here. Do we know where Skinner is? We do. And
Babylonia City, in the homeless community.
In the homeless community. So it's funny because I said this a couple episodes back.
I remembered that. I was going to say something about that. I was like, so one of us mentioned that as a joke. He's probably in the homeless community. I thought it was Steven, but I guess it's you.
I think we both hit on that because I was going to say it and then Steven said it first. And I was like, yeah, because there's a guy that's literally sitting there as they walk by that looks like Skinner. But we didn't know if it was Skinner, and clearly that's the fucking
I guess
dude.
It had to be. I think that's nuts. That's so crazy.
What's nuts to me is how close they've been this whole time. We've known about that community of people with the analgesia, and that tied into this and the homeless community, and that's right here. It's just like they've been right on his tail the whole time, actually.
Yeah. It's interesting how all these threads are coming together. Like, I think there's still some connections to be made, but it is like you're seeing it all form into something cohesive, but not quite sure how to bring it all into one narrative yet,
Yeah,
Kuro,
and it's...
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Kuro, you actually mentioned a couple episodes ago that the search for Skinner seems to be leading them in his footsteps. That it couldn't be more clear or confirmed at this point when, the orders popcorn was, well, if someone finds you, go ahead. This is very clearly, if you find the steps, you can get there. Skinner wanted people to find what he saw.
Yeah.
See what he saw.
He's trying to tell a story.
You called that part.
I was right about something. So we can name the episode Kuro was right, sort of.
Sort of.
Sort of.
Also, it's interesting that he told, because I'm really bad with anime names. One hacker there. What's her name?
Elena or Popcorn? The Popcorn Wizard.
Popcorn.
Lynn.
Popcorn Wizard.
Lynn.
There it is.
Lynn.
So he told Lynn that if anybody came to her, he was like, "Oh yeah, just tell them where I am, and then they can come get me."
Yep.
Oh, okay, all
This is
right,
trail of breadcrumbs.
sure,
Yep.
why not?
Well, like I said, it's pretty clear that that means that he wanted people to follow his footsteps to get to him, and that's what it took.
Yeah.
By the way, can I point out the fact that we don't have any like robot ninjas or giant
Only
robots on
every week.
surfboards?
Only every week.
I need to.
Ninja robots, the power's in you.
Because at this point, like, we don't need it, and it's good not to see it. So this is an actual anime series that's actually good. So, which puzzles me why this was almost on the chopping block. I don't understand. I don't get
So
it.
much the chopping block that it was almost an HBO exclusive.
That
But
too.
it does fit so well. I think it really fits so well, like as everything's kind of moving forward. It's got such a nice little edgy turn up like to it that really fits in with the Toonami vibe and
It
some
does.
mature content, some thought provoking content, which I think also fits in with the more modern Toonami vibe. So yeah.
And it's interesting because this is probably, since, in my opinion, Shenmue, like, this is probably their best original so far that they've done.
I'd agree with that.
Like, they're not like doing anything like with Ninja Kamui. I hate to keep coming back to that, but they're not doing anything that makes you go, why the fuck am I watching this now? I gotta watch it because there's some story here, but why the fuck am I watching this? Why did you have to do this to me?
I still
So,
like it. I still like it. You can't make me not like it.
no, I don't so I guess I don't dislike Ninja Kamui, but it's like when the robot suits came in, I'm like, really? Like, you had a really good story until you brought this in. So you didn't need
Speaking
to
of good
bring this in.
stories, focus on this one then, because we're not talking about Ninja Kamui today.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe it's on, I think it's on Adult Swim's like YouTube, but they have like the first, I want to say 5-ish minutes of this last episode. So it's going to be interesting to see like what happens after that first 5 minutes. So
So you cheated, is
because
what I'm hearing.
no, I'm not cheating. It actually it's actually up online right now. Episode 13, the first 5 minutes is up online right now. So you can see
Yeah.
it. It's not, I don't think it's,
Spoilers.
you know what? You and your spoilers, okay? Just
I
let people
know.
watch this, okay?
I agree.
Let
Let
people
people
watch.
watch it and don't give spoiler because I haven't seen it, so don't talk about it now because you're gonna ruin it for me.
By the way, can we point out that it's nice to see a president in an anime series that's actually female?
Yeah, and not a million years old.
No. No. Though it's kind of telling, speaking of the president, when she took her glasses down and then she mentions that she took a prototype?
She was one of the first test subjects.
Yeah. So it's very interesting that she's having that effect is happening on her. And I wonder, like, number one, does the vaccine work on her because she was one of the first to get the prototype? But number two, I'm also wondering, Elena had a fever, and as you heard Popcorn Wizard say, oh, people that have a fever with it usually don't come out of it.
Mhm.
So that's interesting. So I'm wondering what that's all about. So and I'm wondering also, like, well, actually I'm wondering who's gonna live. Because
I
are
hope
they gonna
not
be able to get
Face
this?
Schneider. I hope he like just dies horribly. He sucks.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But we'll see. We will see.
What do you guys think of he made the comment to Hayes about he seemed very convinced that Lazarus was after him and not trying to find Skinner. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, that was my take. A little paranoid.
I don't know where he gets that idea from. The only reason they're even dealing with him is because he made them.
Because he came after them first.
Yes. The only other thing that could have led them to him was the fact that he was connected to those experiments. Which, yeah, okay, you might get exposed through that, through them trying to find him. It's not like they're trying to expose you per se. It's more, well, if you got your hands dirty and everything, well, yeah, you're going to get found if something related comes up. Maybe don't dirty your hands, you dum-dum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that he doesn't seem to make the connection that at some point, if they were doing research on Hopna, anyone looking deep into it for the purposes of trying to figure out how to help people would have probably gone down this path as well, because they would have needed to dive deep. So
Yeah.
he seems it's kind of stupid for him to be so trying so hard to cover his ass when it's not really relevant whether it was Lazarus or the NSA or another foreign government agency. He would have been discovered, whatever he's up to, which I don't know yet. Does anyone have any guesses?
I couldn't even begin to guess.
Is he a senator?
No, he's a council.
Right.
He's a kind of council member, is my understanding. Like some kind of
Interesting.
politician.
So, yeah. So then, if he's doing it by politicians, he wants the votes. I would say he signed on for this Hopna thing because let's say if my theory is that it was a military thing to help people like not like die, but to get rid of physical pain. So if they can fight longer,
Okay.
they can
Yeah.
fight more. And so he signed on to it to one of two things. So if it worked, he would get votes from the military community. If it worked the other way and they released it in the public sector, he would get votes saying, dude, this guy cured everyone. He signed it into law. He could run on it. But now he sees it's connected to him and he's all paranoid, like Laser said. And so what he's going to do is try to strip his name off of it and distance himself from it, just like a politician would, and say, hey, I really didn't do this. It wasn't really, doing it. He was basically trying to gaslight everyone. And they're all like saying, dude, you were the one that signed up for this. You were the one that did all this stuff and pushed it forward and gave the research money and voted on all this stuff. You're going to do it. And so now, yeah. It wasn't me. I'm not going to do it. Hey, it wasn't me. Don't look at this guy over here. Look over here. This is what the truth is. And so what he's trying to do, he's basically gaslighting everyone. So then he's going to push it far enough to say, oh, I'm sorry, this guy attacked me and, it's going to do, this is happening. He tried to attack me. I had to defend myself. You can see there that slick, smooth, snaky kind
scuzzy.
of, yeah. That Orochimaru type of energy. He's like, hey, don't do anything with me. I'm. What are you gonna do
he
with
cracked,
me?
Though.
And
he's telling him to crack.
Yeah,
he got him mad.
Yeah. And so when someone does that, they're doing that. He's going to respond in a way that he's doing, like this standoff at the office, and it's like, oh, who's gonna flinch first? So he's trying to smooth over everything like a politician would.
All I can
Good
picture
observation.
when you say that is him just being like, "What are you gonna do to me? What are you gonna do to me?"
Mm-hmm. What are you
Is that a
gonna do to
wrestling
me?
reference?
No, it's from either like Family Guy or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I just assume when you guys do that, it's always a wrestling reference.
Oh, it
If it was a
involves
wrestling reference, I would have got it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I did have some small notes, but I do want to say what you were saying, Kuro, with Elena and Doug being having that kind of same incident. I'm like, okay, that there's something. So we're connecting it to the airport thing.
Maybe.
I don't. It might have been
Maybe,
the airport
yeah.
thing, but if they're not really saying, because I mean, when that image came
They
out,
might have said something at the time when Hirsch was saying it, right?
the they would have said something. So, I mean, it still could have been, but I don't know. I was thinking about it. That's why I tweeted that out. I'm like, what? What's happening? It does feel like that is it, but I don't know. It could have been. Um, Aside from that, it does make sense with episode 2 of seeing Skinner in that homeless community, because it's like he was there and the guy said, "No, don't talk to him. He's deaf and he's blind." So that points out later on in the series that when we see the monkey has the stars in his eyes and now we see the president being blind, like, oh, this is what slowly happened to him, and this is like the future of these people. And it's like, oh, that makes
Yeah.
sense. That they were like laying the clues down, ever since that second episode of what's going on. I do wonder if there's more clues by watching all of this
Yeah.
happening to see where it is. And of course, the assassin saying to Axel, "Meet us where the angel flies," and everything. That's on top of the spire in in Babylon City. That angel up at the top there, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's like a lot of stuff is coming together, which is really cool. Um, there are still questions. I would say it is weird how the president is as far along with the with her diagnosis and what's
She said
happening,
she was
but
on the
Skinner,
trial. She took it one of the trials, so
yeah,
she would
yeah.
be ahead. Because if you remember, the monkey died first a few episodes ago, so it makes
But
sense.
if Skinner was the first one to try it, how is he not dead?
She's not dead yet either. She's
But the
dying.
monkey
The
is?
The
monkey was
monkey,
the monkey
monkey's
was
different than
tested on
people.
before humans. And then they
Mm.
tested on the animals before the humans. And then presumably if the president's going in it wrong, going downhill, Skinner is in a similar place according to him. I thought that he was
So,
faking being blind and crazy because he made that recording and he was perfectly fine doing so.
mm,
So
yeah,
I was gonna say he probably
when did
recorded that.
he so he got infected, like, at the airport, right? That's when his first thing of
that would make
having
sense.
happened
That would make
That
there?
would
sense.
make a lot of sense. Yeah.
I also think that I mean I don't think he ended up in the homeless community like because of any actions. I think he's there on purpose as a way of sort of a moral reclamation. He's there with that community because after everything he went through, he laid these breadcrumbs to tell this story, and his story ends here with these people who've been rejected by society. He's always been about trying to tell people about things on the planet going wrong and the way people should behave. And how he behaved, he demonstrated goodness and trying to help everybody. So instead of like living this luxury life, in his mansion or private island, he's with these people because that's what he thinks is the right thing. That was my interpretation. I don't think he's a bad dude. I'm with Lynn here. I think she has the right take about Skinner. He's getting a bad rep.
I I think probably well, number one, I think that these videos were recorded ahead of time, obviously, especially if he's deaf and he's also blind. That would make sense. That would also make sense why he looks like what he does in episode 2 in the homeless encampment. Um, but I think what's going to end up happening here is either they're going to find him and he's like, "Oh, here you go, here's the antidote," and then he just releases the antidote. Because let's face facts, they have less than 24 hours left. How is that going to get released in 24 hours and prevent people from dying? So
No
he's probably got a plan
idea.
about that. He's probably got a plan for that. So I would assume that, you know, he's probably used his money to, whenever somebody found him, to just unleash the serum, so to speak, to, stop the effects of it. But I'm wondering if the people that took the original one in the tests, if they're gonna still die, because when you look at the president's eyes, you're kind of just like, oh,
She's close.
she's close. But
Mhm.
then everybody else around her that just took regular Hopna, you're not seeing that. You're not seeing the eyes like that. Yeah, you're getting fever. That's what they indicated was happening to some people, but are the people that are getting the fever, are those the ones that had the ones in the trial? Like, and are those the ones that are going to die because there's maybe no cure for that, but everybody else won't? It's a good question. Another thing that I'm noticing, and again, we don't know. We don't know if he's gonna die yet or not, but I'm starting to see that they're setting up for, because presumably this is supposed to be multiple seasons. They're setting up another story in this. And again, I'm going to butcher his name because I am so terrible with anime names. I should literally like write them down, but when you
You
have
should
like
write
50,
them down.
when you have all these kids running around, it's kind of hard to get stuff together. Oh, by the way, your paper gets ripped up. So it's going to be interesting to see the battle that happens at the end here. And if he lives, which I'm hoping he does, because I'm interested to know
Are you talking
what
about
this
Soryu and Axel?
Axel, that's who I'm looking for. I'm interested
Okay.
to see if Axel lives, and I'm also interested to see if what this story that's developing, kind of behind the scenes, because obviously we're talking about Skinner and trying to get the cure and whatever. But what happened with Axel and this guy? Like, is there something going on? And then even what's her name mentioned something back at HQ, like, oh my god, project whatever it was.
Project Hundun.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, where are we
Program.
going with
Hundun
this?
program is actually technically correct. Hundun program.
Right. And here's the thing, like, it would explain something, because the one dude's got a bunch of skills, and Axel's running around here like he's oh, what's the guy's name? I'm trying to think. There's a guy in Tekken that, like, he's Jamaican, and he does like this dancing karate thing, so you can't
Capoeira?
get to him. There you go.
Not the name.
He
That's the type of martial
Capoeira.
arts
That's
he's
but
making.
that's that's the style he uses. Like, Axel seems to use that style a little bit too. It seems like in his
It
movement.
does kind of seem that way. I'm not a capoeira expert, but I do get that vibe.
I can
Yeah,
see it.
and more importantly, the bigger picture is it seems like he was trained because the dude kept breaking out of prison just to break out of prison.
Mm.
So I assume that somewhere down the line, this dude was trained in some way. And then it leads me to ask the question, were all the prisoners really killed because the prototype for Hopna was tested there? Or whatever Hopna was tested there? Or was it for another reason, and most of those people in there, if not all of them, were involved in this project? And that's why they're trying to assassinate Axel, and not because of Hopna to cover it up. That's what I'm
Folks,
wondering.
there's still one more episode to go, and there's still another
Yeah.
secret to be revealed. So hopefully, slimy, sneering Schneider will be the end. him being ended. That's what I'd like to see.
We can only hope.
Yeah. Stupid ugly face. Any final thoughts before we move on to Bleach about this last episode of Lazarus?
I'm really interested to see what the connection is between Axel and the assassin, because there's been enough hints here. There's something.
It's his brother.
I don't know if it's his brother, but it might be that original group of friends he had, or maybe that original group of friends were all part of that assassin program, and Axel just kind of noped out of it.
Some best friend or something.
Yeah, something
Well,
like that.
and-
That's my guess, but I could be wrong.
And to that, there's apparently some angel that saved Axel, and I'm presuming that necklace that he had on was from that quote unquote angel. So it's like
It was a dream.
the other guy reacted to it. So it's like, what does that symbolize? What is that? And again, like it's that bigger story in the background that may lead into a second season.
Well, he only dreamed he was saved by an angel from this most recent fight, not from that.
Oh, I thought it was okay. I thought it was relating back to that.
No, the necklace was something he had from his friends from back then.
Yeah, and the wing, I guess the wing is what triggered Soryu's whole
Yep.
Honda
And that's why I think
PTSD.
there's something there, because that doesn't just get triggered for no reason.
I do love the classic Chinese mythology reference. That's pretty cool. You guys know that I go a little wild for mythology, so and Chinese mythology is especially interesting and very different from many others. So the earliest references date back to about the 4th or 5th century BC. So that's pretty interesting. I'm curious about why this program would pick that particular creature as their mascot, if you will, for lack of a better word. Something there about chaos, I suspect, because that's what the creature represents, is chaos. So maybe there's more to this, the intent behind creating these assassins or whatever they are.
More to this than meets the eye.
Are there robots in disguise? Are we getting those ninja robots?
No, oh god.
And then
I wasn't
Glazer
trying to make that
triggered
reference.
Paul.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
that one's on me, because you started me and then I had to go
it's
there.
okay. Well, I think it's a great time to get fired up about Bleach, which happens to be the name of this week's episode. Laser, can you take us off?
Sure. So this week we start with a little bit break from the action with Urio reading a book, being very confused that the extermination was 1,000 years ago. This actually surprises him because he thought it was only 200 years ago. And then we immediately go onto the fight, well, transitioning from an image on that book of his of a much younger Genryusei Yamamoto with flames all around him. And yeah, he's got flames on him now as he's fighting Yuabaha. And he confirms it. Yeah, it's been 1,000 years since he's seen him. The other Quincy's are like, haha, you are inspired by your commander. Well, we are inspired by ours. Haha, you are not outdone. Haha. Oh, wait, we're no match for Yamamoto. Oops. Oh, okay, well, we're all dead now. Kuroko just kind of like, yeah, that was cute. Even Iwabaha calls them fools for this. Which, yeah, fool! Yamamoto's was like, well, Iwabaha's always had shown contempt for his subordinates. So this is apparently not a new thing for him. Iwabaha's like, haha, you have grown weak. Yes, I'm going to be doing it. Because a lot of this is literally just they fight. That is almost this entire episode is, and then they fight. There's some really great music, some fighting. The smack talk is real from Yamamoto. I intend to smash your flesh, soul, and sword until there is nothing left of them. I love
pretty great, actually.
Yamamoto.
That's pretty great as far as smack talk goes.
Yeah. No, I took note of that line in particular because it's just like, yeah, you tell him, Yamamoto. You tell him. The heat from this fight is literally going across the entire Soul Society. Everyone's feeling it, even if only just, I'm feeling a little bit, my lips are getting a little chapped. What's going on? Oh, Yamamoto's just generating all of the heat, all
Can
of
you
the
feel
fire.
the heat? You're welcome.
Yeah. My favorite moment is actually the guy who's got Toshiro's Hyorimaru. It's like, oh, my ice bird is melting. He's like, yeah, that's happening. And then Yamamoto decides, yeah, you know what? We ball. I go Ponkai. And so, yeah, all the fire condenses into his blade. It's like all that giant explosion fire all condensed in this teeny tiny little blade. And this is what he used to beat Iwabaha 1,000 years ago, apparently. All that fire's in the tip of that blade, and it is smoldering, and they're all commenting how impressive it is. And, if you're just looking like, well, I mean, I believe you, but I'm just seeing like a little bit of like rock and molten looking thing on your sword. And then he accidentally hits a building, and the building vaporizes. He's like, oh, they weren't kidding. That is all of his fire. Then Yamamoto's just like, yeah, no, enough of that. The fire comes back out, saying, where there is an east, there is also a west. So this Bankai has multiple formats. He can condense it all, or he can expand it all, which is what he's doing now, going from east to west as he explains it. Everyone's all like, well, if he's not careful, this is going to be bad. And even he's like, if I'm not quick about this, I'm going to burn everything, so I got to get to this. We flash back to Uryu, who's continuing to read his book as this fight is going on. He's back in the living world. Apparently, the detail is 1,000 years ago, the Quincy's invaded the Soul Society and lost. And that's where Iwabaha was defeated. But 200 years ago, those that survived that battle were wiped out by the Soul Society. And that's what Uryu knew about. Uryu seems a little disconcerted by this, and he states that this is why the two cannot coexist. But then he remembers his times with Ichigo, both the fun and the not so fun between the two, and it's like he's struggling with this idea. We come back to the Soul Society with more smack talk from Yamamoto that Iwabaha can't do much as he's because he's destroyed his sword. And Iwabaha creates a giant Quincy arrow and tosses it at him. It's like, well, I guess he can do something. It's like, your sword may be broken, but you still have your arrows to fight with. More fighting. This is very much an action-heavy episode.
Love it.
But it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. The music, this soundtrack is so good. I actually bought it off Amazon Prime. They have that available digitally. It's great.
Yeah.
And then Iwabaha uses Sankt Zwinger. Thank you, closed captions. There's no way I would have gotten that correct without it. A massive amount of Quincy Blue energy surrounds him as he says it maximizes a Quincy's defense by combining offense and defense. I guess the greatest defense is a great offense and a great defense at the same time? I'm not sure I fully follow, but that's apparently what it does. Yamamoto's just not even fazed by it, and he then uses another mode of his Bankai, Zanka no Tachi South. So this is we've had East, and we've had West. Now we're going South, and now he's resurrecting the dead, like fiery versions of the dead. This is so weird, and yet it's so cool. This is a heavy metal album, covers Wet Dream. But immediately Iwabaha points out, this is hypocrisy, and I can't really argue with that. Soul Reapers are all about, you pass on, you go through the cycle. And here, the head captain is necromantically rising the dead to go fight Iwabaha. This is kind of screwed up, but oh my gosh. It does seem to have an impact on Iwabaha. The wall of the undead go right at him, and he stopped when he realizes he recognizes these guys. Yamamoto's like, haha, this is why my Bankai can't be stolen. You didn't understand how it worked, because I've never done this before. So he's confident that's why they can't steal his Bankai. But while this is going on, Iwabaha does manage to wade his way through his dead comrades towards Yamamoto. And Yamamoto decides it's time to go north. We're going to do a north version of this and just blaze right into Iwabaha with this just like focused fire ray. And when it's done, the whole area starts to rain. Iwabaha is down on the ground, beaten, destroyed. But then he says that he wasn't he thought he was strong enough, but that he has failed. And he asks for forgiveness. This is very curious, and Yamamoto himself wants to know, Iwabaha, whose forgiveness are you asking for? And then Iwabaha says he apologizes for not carrying out his orders. Which leads to the question, okay, who does Iwabaha answer to? He's the Quincy King, isn't he? And at about this point, the Squadron barracks go up in flames, and another Iwabaha appears behind Yamamoto. And he says to the guy on the ground that Sternritter Y, the yourself, the R of Royd Lloyd, has done well, ensuring that Iwabaha's absence has not been noticed. Imposter! The other one was not the real freaking Iwabaha! What is going on?
Cheater. He's cheating.
Yeah, he's absolutely cheating. And Yamamoto demands to know, where the heck has he been? Well, apparently he went on to Squadron barracks to go see Aizen. Which we get to see.
That guy.
Yeah. In case you forgot, Aizen's a guy that nobody likes. Well, Aizen recognizes Iwabaha on sight and says he didn't expect to see him. And Iwabaha wants Aizen to join him because they both want to take down the Soul Society. Aizen's like, yeah, but I'm, a Soul Reaper. Why would you want me? And yeah, it's because of the shared goal. And Aizen just like, nah, I don't follow anyone else's cause. I only work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Iwabaha admits that he doesn't have much time, so he's not going to bother to try and kill Aizen, because that's going to take quite a bit of time, given that Aizen is fused with the Hogyoku still. So he decides to leave, and that brings us back to the present, where Iwabaha basically says that Yamamoto used all of his powers killing his imposter. He's like, yeah, that's cute. And nope, that is not the case. Yamamoto immediately goes to Bankai, which is immediately stolen by Iwabaha. Oh, I guess it can be stolen.
I didn't see that coming. I was really upset.
Yeah, this whole thing is... I've been making a haha joke here. It's because that's kind of how this whole story is like, aha, I know this is going to happen. Nope, actually, haha, you are wrong. Haha, no, you are wrong. No, you, no, you, no, you, no, you. That's kind of how this goes. Back and forth. But it turns out that Yamamoto's Bankai can, in fact, be stolen. It's just that Yamamoto's powers are so great that no one besides Iwabaha, amongst the Quincy's at least, could possibly control them. Iwabaha goes ahead and resurrects Yamamoto's dead comrades on him this time. And he creates a sword out of Quincy energy and slashes at Yamamoto, saying goodbye to him. And we pause out on that screen of Yamamoto getting slashed, and that's the end of the episode.
Man, I really didn't want it to go third Hokage, but they definitely went third Hokage.
You absolutely called it last time, and I'm just like, keep my mouth shut. Keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I hate being right about that part.
Gosh, it is. He's not quite done yet, but yeah, this is not the best situation for him.
No, I had a little emotional moment there, and also then I had a bit of a panic because I was like, well, shit, Yamamoto was their best chance, and now he's gone. They are so fucked. They are so fucked right now.
I take it you have not seen the next episode preview then?
No, I didn't. I told you I don't watch the previews.
Then I'm not going to comment on that. But not their last hope. There is another.
Man. That was really rough though. And during the battle, they can't even take the time to mourn him. yet. It's just really
God, this
sad.
whole thing, this entire arc is one big thing after another. And it's intense.
So I guess the guy, the Bwahaha who died
You
when he said,
are
yeah, Bwahaha, when he died, it wasn't really him when he said he failed
No,
his
it was another.
master. It was his clone or one of the other
It
Stormritter.
was a Quincy. And you're starting to see this a little bit. They're starting to use letters and stuff like
Yeah.
J for jail. This is a thing that they do where they have powers that are based on letters. And this guy, this was just another Quincy that served Iwaha, and his power from his letter allowed him to mimic the appearance and slightly the powers of Iwabaha, although clearly nowhere near on that level. It was interesting to me just rewatching it, seeing Iwabaha even say, "Well, I mean, you still succeeded though because you made sure I wasn't noticed." Didn't stop Iwabaha from finishing him off right there and then though, but it was interesting to see this guy who clearly has no care for his comrades at all be like, "Yeah, no, you did your job."
Yet they follow him loyally.
I have a lot of questions about that in general. I'm not the biggest fan of the Quincy's, the Stern Ritter Quincy's at least that follow him. It's like, why? This guy does not treat you right. They do get something out of it, but I'm not sure that the squeeze is worth the juice, if you get my meaning.
Getting a much stronger vibe than just the initial, like, oh, these guys are Nazis. There seems to be a greater cultural reference to some World War II historical aspects as well. Like the fact that, you know, the Quincy's were defeated and basically defeated to a point where they were crushed. Well, the Germans in World War One were crushed and then put under an impossible treaty that put them that they were left incredibly impoverished and devastated the economy, having to
Treaty of
pay back
Versailles.
the other on the Treaty of Versailles. So I'm not saying directly that there are parallels, but I'm seeing that there's seems to be
That
some
is actually a
influence.
fairly good comparison. I do know from outside knowledges that Kubo was specifically drawing from Imperial Japan, so there's a lot of that going on in here. You could look at Iwabaha being like a stand-in for like the Japanese emperor or something like that.
One of the corrupt shoguns or something.
Something like that. Like they all have this fanatical loyalty to him, whether or not he deserves it.
Yeah. It's really interesting seeing Eisen show up because on my watch, I'm literally on that arc and I haven't seen this form of him yet. So like seeing him like that, I was a bit of a spoiler for me. Like I didn't
Oops.
I mentioned before I didn't know he survived the arc. You never know if what's going to happen to a villain in any and B, I didn't know like that he was going to be in any special condition. So I'm like still watching that arc on my own and it was like, okay, so now I know what happens. I mean, it's not ruining it for me. It's just kind
There
of
is
funny.
more to it that they didn't really talk about, and I'm not going to spoil that for you.
No, of course, she's your class act, but
I
yeah,
want you to know there is more that there's more to learn, so you don't have to be like, I know everything. This is boring.
no. But yeah, losing Yamamoto, that's pretty devastating.
It really hits. And this is one of the reasons I started warning you guys early on, because this is probably the biggest one that I can think of off my top of my head. Like it's freaking head Captain Yamamoto. But man, the Quincy's are just nasty.
Paul, so you said you caught up with Bleach. What are you thinking about all this?
I don't think anybody's going to be left in the Soul Society by the time this is done.
Yeah, seriously.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
Like, and again, I'm really bad with names, but going back like a couple episodes when the Quincy's first start their attack, like That one dude with the blonde hair, like,
Izuru Kira, yes.
yeah, dead. 2 seconds, dead. Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for giving him some character in the original series, and then just being like, nope, fuck you.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in here.
I just hope that we don't kill off too many of the bigger main characters, because like then I'm gonna get very annoyed and angry. Because no, I don't like that. Don't like that.
I think the idea of doing what has been done, no one here is safe. No one.
Don't
Which is
say
good
that
and
to
bad
me.
at the same
No,
time.
don't tell me that. I don't want to lose any more people. I feel like Yamamoto should be it. That's it. He's done. That was like the ultimate kill, and now no one else is gonna die. They're just gonna be injured. Let me live in denial, okay? I can't
Only
take
Laser
it.
knows the facts.
I only know. Okay, to be fair, there's a bunch I don't know because there's still a fourth core of this that has not come out yet. And I have
Yeah.
not read the manga, mainly because I know that the manga version of the story was rushed and is disliked for it. Whereas the anime is effectively a director's cut with Tita Kubo directly involved, adding in scenes, really fleshing this out. And I can tell you, it's great. This
Yeah,
is my favorite
having
Bleach
a-
arc so far.
I'm
at
having
this
a
point.
love-hate relationship with the violence. Like, it's
Yeah.
really entertaining to watch, but it makes me sad when people die and get hurt.
Yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. It is not as bad as I might be making it out. I just want to make sure you're prepared for the gut punches that are coming, because there are some.
I feel like it's pretty bad so far.
Yeah, it is. I think this is probably the nastiest blow.
I'm gonna be really mad if you tell me that and then something bad happens after, like, worse happens. So
I'm
I'm
not
gonna come
saying that
back
nothing else bad is gonna
and I'm
happen.
gonna
though.
blame you. I'm gonna blame you if I get upset after the
Oh,
loss of Yamamoto.
no!
It's all your fault, Laser.
God,
No,
I'm
no, no.
trying to be
No.
nice.
This, you know what we'll do, Kuro? We'll just take him to Darrell's basement, and Darrell can have his way with him. It's fine.
Oh God.
There's a reason this is not a podcast for children. Steven, did you have any notes for this episode?
Sure did.
Sure did.
It was a great episode. Like the animation of the skeletons. That was kind of cool. I mean, a little bit fuzzy, but you know.
Absolutely. Like I said, it's a metal album cover.
It's weird with Yamamoto having like that Bankai that subverts what his role is as a kind of a intermediate person between life and death, and then having a Bankai that literally resurrects the dead. So it's kind of weird that he has that, but I mean, it makes sense. But with the values that the Soul Society have, I thought he would like have something else that would like a lot more pure, I guess, not like evil-ish. But it it is powerful. It's interesting that whenever they have like new antagonists, new bad guys, that Bleach is able to like do some 4D chess with the enemies they have, and then all of a sudden they like pull some like superpower, or something like they never seen out of it. You would have thought that that like what we knew with Yamamoto, it feels like for that one it was almost necessary for him to have it, and then just waste it on a dude that like was just a copy of the big bad villain, which I mean right there at that point when he's like I guess I should have knew, or not should have knew, but I guess I should have seen something like that coming, which is pretty good storytelling if I can't see something like that coming, that the guy that he was facing in that episode was not the main villain. Because you would have thought, I mean, from what they were doing, you would have thought that's the main villain. He appeared on, because the last episode he appeared on on the battlefield, and it's like you would have thought that that was him, and then it's like seeing all his old comrades that's what should have gave it away to me, that if he didn't care about his own comrades and was like, just painting the wall with him in the first 2 episodes when they hardly did anything
Mhm.
wrong, he shouldn't have felt bad when the ones came back. And it's like he should, but he did. This guy felt bad and knew all of them because he was the one that had an emotional thing with him. He had an emotional connect with him, Royd. But the big bad had nothing. And he's like, I don't really care, and he just like brushes it all off. Like, yeah, I have your power now. Who cares? That's cool. It's weird, but it's cool. I should say that because I don't see that often. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't watch anime often, but I don't see that often in anime. That it's like it's kind of like that, right? That dynamic. Though there are plenty of copies out there that do that type of thing, but it's interesting to see that they were hinting at this was not him earlier in the episode, then just all of a sudden, oh, hey, I was behind you the whole time, and it wasn't me. Let's see here. I think that's it for me, but it was a great episode. One that I was like fully. It's not that I don't watch it. It's like I go beforehand. What I do for the when it, to tweet things out, I see the episode beforehand in screenshots that I have. And so I pick the ones that I think are most relevant, and then I go live. When we go live, I hit the ones that I do, and then I'll clip some others. And it's like I'm watching it, but I don't have any sound, right? You're watching it, you're seeing the stuff. It's like, okay, here's what's happening. And I don't get on the right moments if I see that. And so seeing it live and watching it live and live tweeting it is a whole different beast with that. And you see elements twice in it, and it's like, huh,
Mhm.
that's some really good storytelling. That's my point of view.
No, that's so cool that you shared that about how you manage the social media aspect. That's pretty cool. Poor Royd sacrificed himself. Not even. He got killed for, putting his life on the line. What an asshole leader. Don't be
Yeah.
like that guy.
I will I will say those Stormtroopers having the names with or the powers based on the alphabet. I'm like, they really wanted to show off to like Count Von Count that they knew how to, count or do their alphabet for Sesame Street. Like, it's like, yeah, the letter of the day is J, and it's like, yeah,
Oh,
powers
that was
of Jack,
excellent.
and it's like,
That is not going to stop either. That's funny that you're making that
Can you
reference.
tell me
it's like, what are they going to do
again?
once they get past Z? Are they going to, get Count Von Count out there? Go 1, 2,
So what I'm
3.
hearing is that the count is actually a Quincy.
Yes,
What?
yes, he is.
He would
He's in
never.
disguise. He's on
How
Sesame
dare
Street.
you? Don't sully the Count's name. The Count is precious.
He's not. I said he's a Quincy. I didn't.
I'm a
He
Quincy.
teaches
he's
us
not
about
part of
numbers.
Sternberger?
No.
Yeah, they're numbers, so he's not actually part of Sternberger. He just does numbers. He's a good Quincy.
He's like a cousin character to him, He's like he sits there on the side and he counts while everyone else does. That's his his
doing
vice. He
alphabet
just counts
Today's
numbers
episode
all
of
the
Bleach
time.
is sponsored
The
by the
alphabet.
letter J.
No.
And now I just want to make some One Piece references.
Rip Royd Lloyd. Yeah. It was really beautifully animated episode. Great soundtrack. I guess it makes sense. There's no way they would have the two big bosses fight each other in episode 6 of the, a long story arc. So I suppose we should have expected something drastic to happen. Doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we get fired up for Blue Exorcist?
That's an interesting little connector piece there, because we go from fire to fire.
Exactly. That was all intentional.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Out of the fire, into the fire.
Yeah. into the flames. Well, speaking of flames, we left off with the boys hearing about Master Tatsuma and his encounter with Father Fujimoto, and also Mamushi and Toto going about their merry way to something presumably very sinister. Well, it is very, very sinister. Mamushi and Toto are heading to the old temple of Miyota, where Mamushi seems to be convinced that they can store the eyes to be safe in the original old keep. And the old temple is presumably where the temple was before the Blue Night, because it seems to be abandoned. Mamushi then reflects briefly on her old childhood living there. Meanwhile, Toto, who is still faking being a concerned teacher, follows Mamushi, and they discover a sacred flame there lit. Aha! And this causes Mamushi to pause. Back with the twins and Master Tatsuma's story, he tells of the Koma sword history, which he calls Kurikara, and says it was a demon sword, and that their founder, Fukaku, summoned a fire demon and bound it to the sword, and used the flames to defeat the impure king. Because fire type defeats poison! In this world. Tatsuma is outraged by Fujimoto's casual handling of the Koma sword, and Yaozo then attacks him to reclaim it, but before he can take any real action, Fujimoto collapses because he's very injured from fighting the demon. Tatsuma then learns that Fujimoto is an exorcist with the order, and he asks how he knows about Kurikara, and Fujimoto says he was given orders to take the sword, and casually just drops that he's got to kill some kid, which naturally outrages Tatsuma, who refuses to give him the sword. So Fujimoto fakes the monk out and then runs around, presumably looking for the sword, and goes into the main temple where he discovers all of the miasma-inflicted people. He turns and angrily admonishes all of them for only praying, which is not going to remove the miasma. Yeah, you can't pray away the pain. It doesn't work that way.
It does not.
Yeah. Fujimoto then takes charge and orders the monks to gather ingredients, which he works into a cure to heal all of the afflicted, including our Toriko, the very pregnant Toriko. And she is healed from her infection, which leaves Tatsuma overjoyed. And the baby is okay. Yay! Yay, you're gonna have a bratty teenage boy. For now. Fujimoto then asks for the sword as payment, and pretty much makes it clear that he's either going to take the sword or they can give it to him. Which does seem to not outrage, but Tatsuma's kind of taking this in, like, wait a minute, you only helped us for the sword? And Fujimoto's like, well, duh. Then suddenly the master shows up, and he is still infected with the miasma, and he attempts to restrain Fujimoto with the other monk's powers. Tatsuma steps in and attempts and pleads that they leave him alone, saying that he healed the afflicted, but I guess the master hates science? I don't know, that's not at all relevant today. He also states that because Fujimoto's seen the Koma sword, he has to kill them. Which is really funny because Fujimoto has made he made a reference at some point about the sword being empty. In any case, and that which might be relevant in a moment. But being adamant that he has to protect Miyota, sends the monks after Fujimoto to capture him, and Fujimoto escapes. Tatsuma then vehemently rejects his father's way and runs off. And then he catches up with Fujimoto and brings him the sword. Helps him evade his pursuers gives him the right way through the woods. He also confirms that the sword is in fact empty, and like Fujimoto had guessed. And he seems relieved to give it to him. He seems relieved also to basically confront his father. Very interesting. So I guess we see the real young Tatsuma. And before he leaves, Fujimoto states that they are now friends. Back at the old keep, Toto has cleverly convinced Mamushi to bring him to the Deep Keep, and he seems to be acting like he's following her, but it's very clear he's up to something. They come to the seal over door, which she opens, and he generously offers to take the other eye from Mamushi and claims he feels bad that she's suffering because of him and calls her his favorite student. Master manipulator right there. As they enter the room, what appears to be a giant cocoon hovers over a flame, and it is wrapped in sutra seals and chains. And Mamushi is disturbed and astonished. Toto then retells the story of Kurikara and the Emperor King, but adds that the demon wasn't killed, it was sealed. At which point, Karura, the fire demon, abandoned the sword, and the Impure King then was sealed in the Deep Keep. He then reveals his intention to reunite the eyes with the king and tells her he has no further use for her. And just as he's about to attack, Master Tatsuma saves the day. Yay, Master Tatsuma! He reiterates his commitment to protect everyone and prepares to battle Toto. Back with the twins, in his letter, Tatsuma reveals that the secret of Miyota is, which includes the truth about the Impure King being alive. Upon his father's death, the demon Karura left the body of his father and asked if Master Tatsuma was a descendant of Fukaku who uses blood to confirm it. He then states that he will serve Tatsuma now in exchange for the secrecy, which will be their bond, and states that he's born of secrets and gets nourishment from that and lies. Which explains a lot. Explains a lot.
It really does.
Yeah. Yes. So, don't be an entitled teenager and try to get shit out of your daddy. All you gotta do is wait. You'll get your own time. Anyway, I digress. Yes, Karura, the cool-looking phoenix demon. In the present, we see Karura appear and out of Toto, out of Master Tatsuma, and ready to fight Toto. I guess it's she. We're gonna say it because I don't know. The demon attacks, but Toto withstands the flames, and his demon possession seems to be helping him heal. But he's definitely struggling under the attack. So he's like, wait a minute, I don't actually have to fight this. And then pops the eyes into the sack of demon. And as reuniting the eyes with the Impure King, which suddenly starts exploding with a kind of goopy looking poison. Juzo, having followed the master from the previous episode, ends up there at the old temple just as the Impure King is unleashed and is exploding everywhere. Oh, crap. Tatsuma then hands the wounded Mamushi over to Juzo and states he will hold the demon until the rest arrive and instructs her to tell everyone what happened. And he's very sweet, telling her she's going to go back to her daddy. He's a good guy. Karura, appearing, then states that their secret pact is over, but Tatsuma reiterates that they have another pact and wants to use the purifying fire attack, which is this demon's ultimate move to contain the other demon. So they use the purifying fire attack, and it seems to wipe out Tatsuma. Just as he is reflecting in taking a break in the moment, he is suddenly stabbed in the back by that bastard Toto. Toto reveals that Tatsuma was always his target, and that he wanted the familiar. So, putting together the obvious, he wanted to make sure that the master was in a vulnerable state so that he could do something else, which is incredibly disturbing. He sees that the Karura, who is released from Toto in that moment, and grabs it and consumes the demon. It's pretty disgusting because he's literally eating him, and it seems to absorb those abilities in his body. At that moment, Toto starts to de-age, but he realizes his body is having trouble holding the demon inside and thinks he can find another solution, but indicates that this is all part of a bigger plan. At the end of the episode ends with Tatsuma's letter begging Ren to help him defeat the Imbeer King. Will he be up to the challenge? Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
We're hitting the ground running. Everything is on fire. Steven, let's start with your notes. What'd you think?
Man, that episode
Yeah.
was crazy. To think, because right when they got to the end, to think that it was all in one letter, man, that's like I don't know. I was stunned. I'm like, oh, they threw everything in that letter. Man, that guy must have been writing for days. It's weird to me that a majestic creature like the Phoenix to be powered by secrets, lies, and mistrust. That is weird, but man, that thing was a cool little demon. Aside from that, Toto going all Kentucky Fried Phoenix and eating that thing piece by piece. I mean, I guess you're gonna have a little indigestion eating
Yeah,
that
he
thing.
said
So,
it was, he could
makes
feel
sense
it
there.
rumbling in his tummy, and I was like, I bet you feel it.
Yeah. What are his plans? That is, I mean, okay, so we can think the Emperor King is a diversion tactic to his true plans. I don't know what his plans are. The guy's looking like a Digimon now with the wings on his ear, so it's like, dude, you're digivolving to something else. I don't know. That the one thing was weird to me is Mamushi taking the eye out of her eye, and her eye is still there. So where does the normal eye go? And this is what I was thinking the whole time. Where did the normal eye go if you place the Impure King's eye in your eye? So like, does it like melt onto it?
It-
Onto your eye? Or does it like the
I'm gonna
whole
go with the
thing
melting onto the
pop in
eye.
your eye and your eye like gets like sucked on behind it or something? Because how are you seeing with that thing? I mean, and what are you seeing with that thing? I mean, are you seeing like hatred or something? Because then they pop it out. And that thing just floats on to the, the cocoon right there. And it's like, huh. Like, that was the whole thing, heading through my head. Like, how did she pop that thing out of her eye? Like, you must have, some will of steel to do that. Let's see what else I got here. Said that. Fujimoto, and it's, dude, that guy, I understand. At one point, did he like become like a father figure? Because everything they're saying is like, dude, this guy was not ready to become any kid's father, let alone he couldn't even probably watch a dog. I don't know how he befriended Kuro, as a cat. It's like you need to be trained pretty good to even do that stuff, and it's like. He's all like, yeah, I'll just take the sword. And he comes down, with a shotgun and everything else after defeating some like huge bird. It's like, I don't know, bud, how you're doing this, but I mean, he's really good at making friends. He's really good at like making first impressions and helping people, which is kind of the other thing that I felt weird that I have down here. Sorry for rambling and going on tangents and everything. Is the difference between the religious order of the Holy Cross and their sect that
The
they
Myoto.
have, the Myoto sect, that they're praying to get rid of the miasma. You have a demon that you can't like reveal until you stop lying to people and finally tell them the truth. You have a demon that can probably help you out of this if you just would lie to half those people, which they were doing. But you have a demon that could probably help you out of it. But he just comes along, which is modern medicine and modern exorcism stuff, and just like releases them all. It is a weird thing that in hindsight, you can see why they didn't want any outsiders there. because if they would have outsiders there, the head priest would have to release a contract with that demon, and everything would go, sideways again. And the impure king wouldn't be protected, or the eye would float back to it or whatever. It is interesting, but it's like, you thought they would have a little more sophisticated medicine to treat that miasma stuff, and they always had miasma on them, apparently, or something.
One of the things that I like is how, when Toto manipulates Mamushi into coming onto his side, he presents everything factually about, the sword being given away, and about, the temple, and like the eye and everything. And he was technically correct, but I like how you can see it, a fuller picture in this episode, Laser. Like, don't you think it's interesting that when we see Toto reveal himself, like, him being so arrogant about everything, and pointing out, like, yeah, I didn't actually lie to you, but you were dumb. And now
Oh
I'm going to,
gosh.
yeah,
Going
that
back to
moment,
this a sec, well, it's not my second, it's like third or fourth, but it's
yeah.
just like, yeah, see, it's just painful watching this go through. It's like, you dumb
Hmm.
kid. I get it, but come on. Only he
Hmm.
knows what's going on. Everyone else you can't trust. Only him. Oh, okay.
It's interesting too, because like the Muta had a culture of you see this from Tatsuma's memories, that the master has this knowledge that the rest of them don't, and that was accepted, and he was never pushed on it. He took his authority in hand. But then Tatsuma, who's essentially keeping the same secret, he's treated poorly as a result. He's sort of an outlier from the sect. He's not involved in the running of it. He's obviously was focused on his real duty, which is maintaining the seal over the impure, the real seal over the impure king, and the real sacred flame. But in general, like, the disrespect he gets from his son, who made all these assumptions about, him not being involved, like how Tatsuma's way of taking charge differed so much from his father's that he was willing to sacrifice his reputation as a result.
Just different personalities, different leadership styles. One was all controlling, the others will let them take care of them, let them, do what they got to do. I don't need to micromanage all this.
Yeah.
But that did, in fact, do reputational damages, even though I'd say it was a better style.
Yeah, I mean, he at least allowed science to come in and heal the miasma. Poor Mamushi. Hopefully she's regained her sanity through all of this. Um yeah, I really love the revealing of Karura the demon. Like, it's tiny and cute, but also is fierce. And I love fire in general, so, fire demons, it's the coolest combo. Kind of sick though, being eaten, poor thing.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that. When he
I
did that, I
had
was like,
actually I
"Oh."
had actually forgotten about that too. It's been
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah, and then he did it, and I was like, "Oh, now I remember this."
Yeah. It's like, oh, if I couldn't hate Toto more. Oh, yes, I can.
And I was equally as upset the second time around. I was like, "Wait, no, we need that. We need it. Give it back." But it does make you wonder at this point in time, was the whole purpose of releasing the Impure King, because it seemed like at first like that was the end game, except that now it appears that this was just a way to get Tatsuma to cast this massive spell to contain it, so he'd be vulnerable enough that he could steal Karura. So why does he want Karura? I know you
That
can't
is the
speculate.
question.
I know you can't
That is a
speculate.
question that I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole, but that is a question.
It's a question yeah, it's a question that is a question. Yeah, it's hard, to, because typically we do a lot of speculating and like theorizing on this show, but when you know a little bit, though I have to say, like, it's been a few years since I watched this season, so some of the details are coming in, like,
That's kind of what's happened with me with this one as well.
yeah,
And because it's been a minute, it's like, okay, I know this, and this is gonna happen, but I forgot exactly how this goes along, so I'm gonna speculate. Haven't you already seen it? Yeah, but I forgot the details.
yeah. We gotta get Paul to watch it. Come on, how is this
Come on,
not
Paul,
sound
join us.
fascinating? Yeah.
You gotta
I,
exercise those demons.
I mean, never mind.
Join us, Paul.
Join us.
Join the Knights of the True Cross.
It's getting really good.
It is.
good.
I would love to join you, but I need some sleep sometime. So
Unlike old school CJ, who functioned frequently without sleep.
yeah, we need to talk to him about that.
Yeah, yeah. Steven or Laser, any final thoughts about this episode of Blue Exorcist, and what are you looking forward to next week?
More fun stuff.
I really enjoyed. Go ahead.
No, it's basically more fun stuff. I don't want to see Yukio right now because it's like it's the good stuff. I mean, I don't want to be depressed by him because walking around thinking, "Woe is me, woe is me." I got a brother who's like the son of Satan. Well,
So are
guess what,
you!
bud? You're the son of Satan too.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the story of how the two met. Vlad Fujimoto and brain work, the head monk guy whose brain
Master
name
Katsuma.
Master Katsuma. I don't know why I can never Katsuma. I don't know why I can never remember his name. I love that story.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from I hate you to oh my god you're awesome to I hate you to oh hey actually let me help you get out of here. I don't think you're gonna kill a kid. And he's right. He didn't.
It's almost like he released the inner Tatsuma to be himself.
Yeah. It gave him the courage to step forward.
Yeah. And they have a lot more in common. I hope that their friendship continued beyond this incident, that they, got together and had drinks. My headcanon says yes.
That certainly is a hope, yeah.
That they were pals and they hung out.
I like to imagine that at least.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered everything. Since we're not going to be covering Daima this episode, we'll be doing some catch up after we finish up Lazarus, which the finale is next week. So get excited, everybody, but also sad because that means it'll be over. I wonder what they will be replacing Lazarus with.
That is the question.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Paul?
Fire Force.
Really? I hope so. That'd be awesome.
That would actually be really cool.
I think the last episode was posted up on June 20th of this part of this season because I think isn't it cut into 2 parts or something?
They are doing 2 cores, yes.
Yeah, so I'm thinking that now that it's all up on Crunchyroll, just like with Daima, I wouldn't be surprised.
And they've still got a couple episodes to dub, but only the 2.
Yeah, so I see that coming. I see if it's not going to be right after Lazarus is over with, it's going to be shortly after that.
I'm actually hoping we get Mashal Season 2 because I really like Mashal Season 2.
Oh, I want that too. Yes.
We have quite a few season 2s hanging out, waiting to come back to Toonami. I feel like we have Dr. Stone that they can still add, not season 2s, but like follow-up seasons.
Continuing.
Continuing. There's quite a few.
Hero Academia hanging out there, although I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, so there's quite a few options. I am going to put my money on Dr. Stone. I'd love to see Fire Force, and I think it'll eventually be there, but I think we're going to have to wait longer. I think Dr. Stone has had enough time spent.
I will definitely say Science Future is very good.
Yeah. And then we might get Darrell back on here because he loves Dr. Stone.
It's got a strong connection for me as well. That's I started getting on here writing about Dr. Stone.
That's right. That's right. Well, either way, I guess we'll see, and you'll be hearing from us here. So it's time for some house cleaning. If you have any thoughts about this podcast or any other podcast we've done, you can email us at podcast@toonamifaithful.com. If you haven't already, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Toonami Faithful Podcast, or on Twitter at Toonami Podcast, and on Blue Sky if you search Toonami News. You can listen to the podcast on just about everything, including Apple, Castbox, Deezer, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Overcast, Podbay, Podbean, Podcast Addict, Radio.com, Spotify, and TuneIn. Basically, anywhere that you listen to your podcasts, you can find us. And you can find every episode of the podcast to stream online at soundcloud.com/Toonami Faithful Podcast, including a very recent and awesome interview that Sketch and I got to do with Jason DeMarco. So if you haven't heard it yet, please check it out. It's a great interview. He gave us a full hour, and he told us some really interesting things about his current role. We talked a little bit about Lazarus and some of his other past projects. So definitely check it out and let us know what you think. And if you haven't already, you can get the latest news by following at Toonami News on Twitter, where you can read the news, views, and reviews from ToonamiFaithful.com, but also on Blue Sky. And if you're interested in supporting us on the website, you can subscribe to the Toonami Faithful Pass at patreon.com/ToonamiFaithful. Steven, where can they find you?
You can find me live tweeting the Toonami block on with Brittany or amazing other social media co-hosts and whatever those. Oh man, I don't even know what they call us. We're social media peoples. We put that stuff out. Yeah. You can tell how out of it I am.
You're doing great.
It's too hot here in Chicago, man. It's too hot here in Chicago, man. And that's even for me. It's too hot here in
It's
Chicago.
100 degrees over here. Are you getting
Um,
something like that?
Yeah, it's sad, and it's like it even with the rain, it doesn't even help because it's just hot afterwards. It's like,
Yeah,
come
summer
on.
came on with a vengeance.
Aside from that, yeah. Aside from that, you can follow me at MXAGhost. I'm on like every platform. Do I post stuff? Maybe. Do I want to post stuff? Maybe. Mostly, you're just gonna hear me talk about Kamen Rider and Yu-Gi-Oh, because that's basically my life. It's like my whole feed is just filled with like Kamen Rider stuff, and it's like, oh, cool, they tweeted about Kamen Rider Gab. Oh, cool, it's a global account. Will we ever see it over here? Probably not, but I can sure repost all that stuff. Aside from that, I do want to say one thing. Brittany loved when she seen that kiss with Lazarus with Chris and Axel. She was shipping those two like from the beginning.
Aw.
And I had this I heard that like all throughout, and she was shipping them. And so I'm just telling you guys that right now. I'm like, yeah, those two deserve to be together, but she was shipping those two all the way. So it was like I needed to say that. Aside from that, yeah, that's where you can find me.
Oh, I love that.
That is
Laser,
awesome.
Laser, where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at LaserKid Prime. You can find me on Blue Sky when I remember that I have a Blue Sky at LaserKid. And you can find me on my fun little podcast, The Simulub Saints, on YouTube and Spotify podcasts. And we all on social media on Twitter and Blue Sky, all Simulub Saints.
And Paul, where can they find you when you're not sleeping?
You took that away from me. Why you gotta do
I
that?
know. I did that on purpose.
It was cruelly malicious.
Fine. Well, you can find me on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. You
Twitter.
can find me Instagram. You can find me Blue Sky at the same thing, at Paul Pascrillo. You just search for it and you can find me. And you can also email me, paulpascrillo@toonamifaithful.com, if you have any issues or complaints or whatever. And Kuro, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter at Happy Kuro Kitty, and I'm on Blue Sky if you search for Happy Kuro Kitty. And I'm also on Instagram if you want to see me post pictures of my garden and my cats. I'm pretty sure that's also Happy Kuro Kitty, but I don't have it up, so I can't be sure. But pretty much everything is Happy Kuro Kitty. And that's a wrap. That's a podcast. Check out our interview. Write us, email us, tweet us. Thank you so much for listening, and tuning in if you did tune in live.
Will the real Iwamaha please stand up? Please stand up.
Don't ever do that in my presence again.
And we are out.